Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for the DailySheeple.com. And man, I got a great story for you. I'm going to start off the night with little creepy clowns going on. DailySheeple.com's own Piper McGowan wrote a great article today. Hoax, psyop, mass mind control, creepy clowns threaten nationwide. Scaring everybody, schools everywhere on high alert. Now, of course, we know that the police state has really brought about a prison culture in the public schools today, and we've been seeing that with metal detectors, with these police officers that roam the hallways and oftentimes terrorize children. We have lockdown drills, and it's all designed to control. And I don't know whether this is a psyop or not, if this isn't some sort of copycat routine. But Piper writes, something very strange is going on right now in this country, and it involves random appearances and threats by what some people's are what they claim to be their worst nightmare, creepy clowns. And that's weird to even write, but what's happening seems straight out of Stephen King's It. And I have to tell you, folks, I mean, in 10 states, we've seen creepy clowns pop up randomly. And you just have to wonder what the deal is with these clowns. And again, you could chalk it up to like a copycat, but I got to be honest with you. I think it's probably just a little bit more than that. Maybe I'm making something out of it. I don't know. But I can tell you that it's causing some very interesting behavior to take place. And Wavy 10 in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia is even having a problem with these creepy clowns. They're reporting that a Hampton teen in Hampton, Virginia, was arrested for soliciting a clown to kill a teacher. That's right. You can't make this up, folks. A 13-year-old Hampton girl is in police custody for allegedly reaching out to a person on social media to kill one of her teachers. That's right. Police say that the person contacted was using a clown image as their profile picture as well as their alias. She allegedly reached out to that person to murder a teacher at Davis Middle School. Yeah, you can't make this up. And here's the problem. Our children are very impressionable. And as time goes on and things get harder and harder, to make a living in this country, to provide for your children, all of that. Plus you have the breakdown of the family structure. These children don't have proper parenting anymore. And so they're being raised by their social media devices, their smartphones, their computers. They're being raised by these things, and this is the result of the whole demoralization of the world. It's not just America, folks. It's the world in general. And this stuff is designed to demoralize. It's designed to control. And that's exactly what we're seeing with these clowns and other, what I like to call false flag attacks, because that's really what they are at the end of the day. Even if these are just copycats, they got the idea from somewhere. It was put into the public mind, into the public psyche somehow. Who did it? I don't know. But obviously, there's very little benefit to teenagers and whoever. It could be, stalkers. It could be, people out trying to take children to do nasty things with them. You just don't know. So, I mean, this is something to pay attention to, certainly. But I think there is a little bit more to it. And, of course, that's not the only thing going on as far as these people dressing up as things. Over in Europe, and we've seen this here in the United States, too, with CGI and being able to simulate or make these fake videos, say, like, remember the ISIS videos out there of the beheadings that were really green screen in nature. Now there's actors dressing as Syrian war victims, and it's practically indistinguishable from the real thing. And a lot of it's been fabricated. There was just a story that broke today about how the Pentagon spent $540 million, $540 million for propaganda videos. How is that? How can we trust the news cycle when you don't even know what's real and what's not? And so Tony Carlucci of the Land Destroyer site, he wrote, and of course SHTFplan.com picked it up, said that recent protests held across North America and Europe, staged by supporters of armed militants in Syria, have staged scenes in Western streets eerily similar to those featured photos and videos of the U.S. European-funded Syrian Civil Defense, also known as the White Helmets. Now, Saudi state media, Al Arabiya English, would report on October 1 in an article entitled Worldwide Protest Against Assad's and Russia to Save Aleppo. And this is what they said, quote, the stalling talks between international powers on Syria, with Russia ramping up its air raid campaign, has ignited worldwide protests calling for an end to the horror in Aleppo. Now, that's not to say that there isn't horror going on in Aleppo. If you take a look at what's happening in Aleppo and you look at the ruins of Aleppo, you can tell that some very bad things are going on. However, you may not be getting the whole story. Now, protesters in Turkey, France, the Netherlands, America, and Canada took to the streets opposing Bashar al-Assad and Russia's crimes in Aleppo. Let me stop there. First of all, Bashar al-Assad is getting a bad rap. That's not to say he's not a bad person. I don't know the guy, but I can tell you that when you're hearing this propaganda spewed in the American media and the Western media, you can almost guarantee that there's a major slant going on in favor of advancing this pro-West ISIS support, and it's not good. We have to understand that what we're seeing now in the news cycle, especially the mainstream media, is a lot of propaganda. And these pictures, if you take a look, shtfplan.com has a great, has the article posted on its site. They look very compelling. You can't tell the difference. You can't tell the difference between what is staged and what is real. And of course, again, we've seen this with the ISIS videos, the beheading videos. You just don't know what's real. But I can tell you that they need to do this in order to continue to garner public support for the military-industrial complex and this agenda that funnels trillions of dollars from the taxpayer to the military-industrial complex and their cronies. It's that simple. That's what it's designed to do. In other news, the Wall Street Journal, since we're talking about that, now you've got federal agents that are going to gun shows to scan cars' plates at the show's parking lots. They're taking the license plate numbers to see who exactly is going to these gun shows. Why, you might add? Oh, I don't know. But they certainly have persuaded police officers, and these are the local police, who are nothing but the Fed's cronies. You have to remember, local police get a ton of federal funding. They participate in the 1033 program. If you don't know what the 1033 program is, look that up. That's a rabbit hole you'd love to go down. And basically what that is, let's give local police free military equipment so that they can be just like the military. It's gone from local policing to, serve and protect, to we're the police and you're a civilian. There's actually that military distinction that's taking place even at the local level. And for local government to go and take your license plate down when there is absolutely no probable cause whatsoever, to me, constitutes a gross violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. Food for thought there, folks. I mean, this is something that is just unacceptable and unbelievable, because not only is it your Second Amendment right to bear arms and to go to a gun show if you want to go to a gun show, but you should be able to do so in peace and safety, right? Because the Fourth Amendment should, it should pretty much protect that. But not in today's America. No, it does not. And it's unbelievable because, and this is going to have repercussions. Let me just say this. It's going to have repercussions because eventually people are going to be so pissed off. People are going to feel like they're backed into a corner, slowly but surely. I know I've heard that, boiling frogs, death by a million paper cuts, but I got to tell you, I'm seeing a lot of outrage out there. And as economic conditions continue to worsen, as foreign policy continues to just run amok, and as civil liberties continue to erode, people are going to be less and less patient to want to put up with this stuff. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. How does it manifest itself? I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you. But I can tell you I'm pretty pissed. That much is for sure. Now, if you remember the other day, Congress passed a bill. The 9/11 bill, remember, to sue Saudi Arabia for 9/11. So the 9/11 survivors now have a way to sue in federal court, and then if they're victorious, they can seize Saudi assets over here in the United States. Now, President Obama vetoed that because, and they know, that sets dangerous precedent. Why? Because who has violated more countries' sovereignties, the sovereignty of more nations, than the United States? I can't think of another nation that's done it. And it sets a precedent because now everything in all these countries, remember, what are there, like 900 military bases out there in like 160 countries? They can start seizing those assets now. And that's exactly what's happening because according to Activist Post, the Iraqis are looking at using the Sue the Saudis 9/11 bill to sue the U.S. for the 2003 invasion. Isn't that interesting? Matt Agarist is reporting here, says, the warmongers in the U.S. government have just had their fears realized as Iraq plans to use the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, a.k.a. Sue the Saudis, to demand compensation for the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Last month, the U.S. House of Representatives followed the lead of the Senate, passing a bill allowing Americans to sue Saudi Arabia over 9/11. And when that bill was made and made it to the president's desk, Obama showed his loyalty to Saudi Arabia. He vetoed it, but it passed overwhelmingly. The Senate and the House of Representatives overrode the veto. So now the lobbyist group Arab Project in Iraq seized their opportunity to ask for compensation from the United States over violations by U.S. forces following the invasion of Iraq that saw the toppling of late President Saddam Hussein in 2003. The group is pushing for a, quote, full-fledged investigation over the killings of civilian targets, loss of properties, and individuals who suffered torture and other mistreatment at the hands of U.S. forces. See, this opens up a rabbit hole, and it's to be honest with you, and it's appropriate. It's an appropriate rabbit hole. I would hope that this would piss people off enough to get these non-representing representatives that are in Congress out, because there aren't many decent ones out there, and actually do something about this. But yeah, you never know. Maybe this will bankrupt the United States. I don't know. But I can tell you, there's certainly enough justification for many countries out there. I can think of Afghanistan, Libya, and Iraq, just to name a few, of countries we've gone and invaded. And are they better off today? I don't think so. They get pretty much laid waste to, and then we move on. You rape, you pillage, and you go. It's unbelievable. And that's not the only place that's suffering. Atlantic City, my friends. Atlantic City is risking default now because they missed another deadline. Now, if you have never been to Atlantic City before, let me tell you something. I think the reputation is a lot higher than it actually is when you go see it in person, and I'll tell you why. It's a kind of interesting description, but I've always looked at it like this. You've got the boardwalk, you've got the casinos, and then you have World War II Germany post-World War II, So it's just like ruins. It's awful. And the hotels haven't been updated in years. It's just horrible. But anyway, Bloomberg's reporting that Atlantic City's on the verge of default. The distressed gambling hub has until the end of Monday to comply with the terms of a $73 million state loan that required the city council to disband the local water utility that serves as collateral for the agreement. Instead, city officials announced their own plan last week that would have the utility buy a closed airfield from the city for about $100 million and ask state officials to waive the terms of the loan. So basically, they're like, no, we're not going to do this. Look, Atlantic City is a total and complete failure. But this is just one of many cities that are running with extremely high debt loads. You've got a bunch of pension people that have state pensions and city pensions where they just can't pay for this. Look at Detroit. Detroit is like Atlantic City, okay? The two are very much the same. If you go to Detroit and you go to Atlantic City, they look virtually the same. They're in ruins. Chicago could be next. Baltimore. These are all cities with huge, huge debt loads. And eventually somebody's going to have to pay the piper for this, you know? So we got to keep our eye on that too. There is so much in flux right now. I just can't even begin to tell you. And finally, our last two stories of today. The DailyMail.com says that Assange is going to release damaging information about Hillary tomorrow. That's the 4th. He's gonna unleash his barrage of emails that he has in his October surprise. Isn't that interesting? Now, I wonder what he's got. I do know that they're talking about that he might have some damning evidence about Hillary maybe selling weapons to ISIS with regards to Libya. Now, my thoughts are this. With Libya, of course they knew what they were doing. Gaddafi, he didn't want to play ball with the West. He was trying to free the African Union from the Western rule, from being pillaged by Western banks and Western globalist corporations. So he was trying to get people on board with the African dinar. Now, mind you, in Libya, he had brought water to the desert. He put the resources of Libya to work for the Libyan people. So there was no electric bill in Libya. If you wanted to go to college, they paid for it. Anywhere you wanted to go in the world to college, the Libyan government would send you to college. If you bought a house, they'd subsidize half. If you bought a car, they'd pay for half. I mean, these are just a few things that the Libyan government did with their own resources to better the Libyan people. That's not to say he wasn't bad or what. I don't know. You read his green book, and it gives you an insight into who Muammar Gaddafi was. And I can just tell you, from an American standpoint, we just don't understand it because you're talking about a tribal culture. It's two totally different cultures. So for us to try to understand it from an American standpoint, we just, no bueno, not going to happen. So Julian Assange is getting ready to unleash a barrage or his October surprise on Hillary. What this means for Hillary, I don't know. I think that no matter what happens at this point, does it really matter? I can only hope and pray that people pull their heads out of their butts and not participate. I know that sounds crazy, but the only way I see anything ever happening as far as change in this country is non-participation. I think Martin Luther King had it right. I think Gandhi had it right. I don't think voting for Trump is the right answer. I don't think voting for Gary Johnson is the right answer. I think the perfect thing to do is to sit it out. Because think about it, folks. When you sign on the dotted line, and that's basically what you're doing when you give that vote, you are complicit. You're saying that, hey, this is my man, this is my woman. Anything that they do, you are a part responsible for the actions that they take in office. And are you willing to do that? I mean, it really comes down to what is your honor worth? Just food for thought there. Finally, it looks like Deutsche Bank is in a death spiral. And the EU is probably going to have to collapse. And they're going to have to bail out banks. Michael Snyder from the Economics Collapse blog writes, the largest and most important bank in the largest and most important economy in Europe is imploding right in front of our eyes. Deutsche Bank is the 11th biggest bank on the planet. And due to the enormous exposure to derivatives that it has, it's been called the world's most dangerous bank. Over the past year, he says he's repeatedly warned that Deutsche Bank is heading for a disaster and is likely to be a candidate to be the next Lehman Brothers. Imagine that. You know, the United States is not immune to what's going on over in Germany, in the EU. And this could cause a global economic downturn at a minimum. But it could also be a contagion. And this could also be an October surprise. You never know. The United States is doing, it seems to me that the United States is working very heavily to try and take Deutsche Bank down. Now, they are as shady can be, as most banks are. Just like these central banks, these big banks, same thing. Fractional reserve banking was the dumbest idea ever created by mankind. I mean, just unbelievably stupid. And yet we continue to just perpetuate it and feed the beast and feed the beast. When's it going to stop? When's it going to stop? I think they have $16 billion in assets. They have $163 billion in liabilities. I mean, at the end of the day, folks, no good. No bueno. So, and here this is one other thing I just want to point out. Deutsche Bank is considered so systemically dangerous because it has 42 trillion euros worth of exposure to derivatives, which, by the way, is 14 times larger than the entire GDP of the nation of Germany. Just like Bank of America, I think, has over $100 trillion in derivatives exposure. And look at us. I mean, I think we're on the hook to bail them out. Are you kidding me? How do you bail that out? I think what's needed here is a jubilee. And then we can all sing Kumbaya and press the reset button and start over. Unbelievable, folks. But make sure you stay tuned because I'm going to be doing this Monday to Friday right here on the Daily Sheeple YouTube channel. Subscribe today and check us out at thedailysheeple.com. I'm Joe Joseph. Have a pleasant evening, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.